In our Law and Justice lead, the House Oversight Committee is set to hear tomorrow from Leslie Groff, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime executive assistant. The interview follows the release of the transcript of the closed-door interview with former Epstein aide Sarah Kellen, which included allegations involving several prominent men in Epstein's inner circle, as well as broader claims about Epstein's operation. And just last week, lawmakers also released the transcript of former Attorney General Pam Bondi's closed-door interview as they continue examining how key Epstein-related materials were handled and disclosed. Joining us now is Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari of Arizona. She's a member of the Oversight Panel. Congresswoman, really appreciate your time. Just to start with Leslie Groff, one of Jeffrey Epstein's closest longtime aides, managed many aspects of his daily operations. What are you expecting to learn from her testimony tomorrow?
Thank you so much for having me. Leslie managed every aspect of Jeffrey Epstein's life for about 18 years. She, was really at the forefront of scheduling all of his appointments. This is somebody who was mentioned in the Epstein Files that have been released so far more than pretty much anybody else. And she was actually the one setting up appointments with all of these girls to provide massages to Jeffrey Epstein. I think this is the first time she's ever speaking to a congressional committee like this. She will be in a transcribed interview. I want to know everything that she has to share. We know that, unfortunately, up until this point, other than Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, nobody has been investigated or prosecuted who's, other people who've enacted crimes, who perpetrated crimes or enabled the crimes. And so I really hope that she comes forward with as much information as possible. She has long stated that she was unaware of the abuse that took place. I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely skeptical of that. It's very hard to believe that somebody who was so intimately involved in his life for 18 years had no knowledge, especially when she was setting up the appointments with the girls. Nevertheless, this is her opportunity to be forthcoming, to be honest, and to help us get closer to real justice for the over 1,000 victims who we know existed.
Given her role and kind of how you lay things out, do you see her testimony as a potential turning point in terms of the ability to understand the full scope of the operation? And if immunity could lead to more details from witnesses like Sarah Kellen or Groff, is that an option that you or the committee might be in favor of at some point?
I think the most important thing is for her to be honest and forthcoming. We have seen a number of these interviews where I don't believe that the witnesses have been credible or that they've been honest. We've interviewed other people who were very close in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, like Darren Indyke, Richard Kahn, Les Wexner. All of these men dismissed themselves of all accountability and pretended to have zero knowledge of any wrongdoing whatsoever. What Sarah Kellen brought forward is that she was a victim herself, and she talked about the abuse that she endured as somebody who, was also named as a co-conspirator in the 2008 Sweetheart plea deal. Leslie Groff also was named in that. I think anything that we can do to make sure that she is honest is important. At the end of the day, with or without her knowledge, she did enable these horrific and heinous crimes, and I think that at the bare minimum, she needs to be showing remorse and accountability, and I hope to see that from her tomorrow.
Congresswoman, there's a new Reuters investigation found that some Epstein survivors whose identities were exposed through government document releases have faced harassment, threats, doxing. Should Congress pursue new safeguards or legislation to ensure survivors are protected here?
There were protections and safeguards in the legislation that was passed. The Epstein Files Transparency Act made very clear that nothing about victims or personally identifiable information should be released. I want to point you to the Department of Justice under the Trump administration that is at fault here. Pam Bondi's interview last week made very clear during the dozens of times that she blamed Todd Blanche and said that he is the one who managed the release of the files. I am disgusted by the way that Todd Blanche handled this because of the botched release of these files. To your point, dozens of victims have now had their personal information released. They're facing doxing, they're facing threats, they've had their lives turned upside down. To me, it is hard to believe that this was not on purpose. We know the Trump administration has never wanted these files released. They've rejected transparency and obstructed justice at every point. I think Todd Blanche, not only should he not be confirmed as the Attorney General, he needs to come before the Oversight Committee and testify under oath, and he needs to be investigated for his role in this botched release and the ongoing White House cover-up. It's devastating what's happened to these women.
Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Well, dramatic